Hi everyone. Today I wanted to talk about handles and to show you some ideas I have that you can implement when you're making mugs or jugs. Just to say firstly that many handles are made with the pull method from a piece of clay, and they're milked out of that piece of clay, and then a long strap is made, and these can either be applied individually or you can add a blob of clay to your mug and you can pull the handle out of it. I'm not going to show you that today, but if any of you want to learn that method, corner me in class and I'll show you. I'm going to show you how to make a strap handle, strap handle, and how to use a slab of clay to make a handle. And also how to use some of the tools that we have in the studio, this ribbon tool and this handle making tool, which can also be used to make handles successfully. So firstly, slab built handles. I've got an example here of quite a generous slab built handle, and another Henny Mayer, because he's my favorite. I think the important thing is when you do make a slab handle is to think about how you're going to hold it, how many fingers are going to fit through there, and will that give you enough torque or grip that you can hold the vessel and the liquid and still be able to manipulate it. This handle is much more generous for the scale of the vessel. You can put 3 fingers in there and easily lift and pour with that jug. So those are 2 slab built handles, and over here I've got a little example. I've got a little jug that I made earlier, and I have a template that I use to cut out this handle, which I'm then going to apply to here. Remember, with a handle it's very important that you join it properly, because there's a lot of pressure here, and often your vessel, well, not often, but your vessel might be drier than your handle. So it's a good idea. Like I made this vessel yesterday and I made the handle yesterday, so they're on a similar level of dryness. I mark out where it's going to go, and I give it a generous amount of slip and score it generously, and do the same with the side that I'm going to add.
Can I interrupt and ask you a question about how firm does your mug or jug need to be before adding a handle?
So the firmer it is, the better, because you can then manipulate without it changing shape. So this is leather hard. You can see this is, I just added the lip though, so it might actually crack. Anyway, there we go. And then you need to get yourself some fresh clay, roll a little sausage, and place it around the join. And using my favorite wooden tool, you can join it half, put your tool in the middle of the sausage and go down, and then in the middle and go up. And if it's nice and firm, it should just stay on, and you can use your finger to tidy that up, or a kidney afterwards. Okay, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I think you get the general idea that is how you would add that. Right, and this is also generous enough for 2 fingers. It's difficult to know. Yeah, it would probably work. I mean, it's a bit oversized maybe for the vessel, but it gives you the idea. Oh, and then just to say that this is also, aside from the other 2 I showed you, this one is also just a slab that's been added to make something to hold. So that's also another type of slab handle. Right, that's us covered with slab handles. Moving on then to the strap handle. So strap handles are most easily made with a sausage of clay that's then manipulated. I'm just wetting the canvas because it's very dry today, and you don't want it to dry out any more than it needs to, so that it doesn't crack. Anyway, right, so you roll a sausage that, of course, so let's say it's for a mug, yeah? Just bear in mind how thin you want your sausage to be, how thin you want your handle to be. I like a thin handle. This is a typical handle that I would make for a mug. This is a newer version that I quite like the shape of. Okay, so that's what I'm going to make now. So they both start with the sausage, which I then flatten in such a way that, I want to flatten it so that I don't stretch it, that it's straight when I'm finished. And then I take a sponge and just sponge it here. This does two things. It compresses the clay particles so that you're less likely to get a crack here. And I also think it kind of makes it look like you pulled it, so you can get away with it. And then you should think about getting the shape while you prep your vessel so that the clay remembers that it wants to be in that shape. We have these handle formers, so if you don't trust your eye, you can always use one of these formers to help you. I find for my vessels that they're just a little bit too big, but it does help you get that shape. So this is a C-shape handle, which is very common. You can leave it like that, yeah, or if you wanted to, you could texture it. Okay, so I found a little piece of netting that would give you a sort of reptilian look. Let's go with that for that. The other thing you can do, we'll just make another one, is, what was I thinking? You can, you can taper it. So don't flatten it as much as I did. I wouldn't flatten it as much. And you can place it on the edge of the table and grab a tool such as this one, and you can just pat it down on the one side, pat it down on the other side. You can see I don't do this very often. Okay, and then you've got a handle with like a taper in the middle, which actually could look a little bit like this one. You can see here that's got quite a distinct taper, if you like that kind of thing. Right, that's those two. Well, I think that's enough on those. Oh, just to show, so the third one is just to show you how I make this one. I also just roll the sausage to about pinky, it looks like. Flatten it, take a sponge.
Background noise is Winston eating a bone if the sound is coming through on the video.
Just give it a little sponge and then take your former, place it around the former and then let it firm up. Again, I think this is too big. But it's interesting to see. So this takes three fingers, and then one finger easily rests underneath it. So this handle is very comfortable in the hand, and a generous size hand could handle it. Whereas this one only fits 2 fingers, and 2 have to go underneath. Okay, so these are just things to bear in mind when you're making your handle. Not all handles are suitable for all hands, and yeah, they're not all the same. So there we go. So for me, this is too, I find it too long, so I always cut it off a bit. Okay, that's my preference. See, a lot of these have very special markings on them. Right. I'm just making a few handles because I'm just waiting for them to firm up a bit. Another handle that I don't use very often, but I think is quite funky. You take a ball of clay, and you make it so that it's got a bigger left and right, and the middle is, so it's like a bone shape. And just using your fingers, just get that bone shape going. And then tap it on the ends. Those are the ends that are going to join and are actually going to form the handle. Join to the mug. And this is the actual handle part. And then you can start thinking about flattening it in the middle. Giving it another little tap there and another little tap there. Okay, so it looks a bit like that, but I'll join that on later. And then the last handle that I'm going to show you is a hollow handle. So I've shown you all how to do the continuous coil. So this also works really well if you're making handles, especially for like a big vessel, because you can make quite a generous handle. It looks generous, but it's very lightweight, which sometimes is needed. Right, so you roll it, remember, and then you get a bigger stalky, and you roll it again. And in this case, I might try and roll it on this old door plate that I have. Oops. Okay, we'll have to reform that one. Where's the stick gone? Oh, there we go. So if you...
Can I hold the plate?
Yeah, so I'm not doing this extremely well, but you get the idea. Okay, it doesn't have to be this plate, it could be anything, but you get a texture going. And then with a handle like this, you need to compress it. If it wasn't so thin, I'd get more compression there, but there we go. And then you cut here and here. Well, this isn't my best made handle, but you'll get the idea when I put it on. You can get a couple of fingers in there. All right. Moving on to attachment. I'm actually going to start with this vessel. And I would like to make a handle that comes up out of the pot and down generously. I'm just grabbing some fresh clay so I can make a new sausage. And what I thought here was, what about making a tapered handle that's solid? So I'm going to roll it in a bit of a taper, and I'd like to texture it, but I didn't plan this properly, so we're not going to texture it. Right, so there's a sort of a taper, and it's also round. So I just want to show you how you don't have to flatten your handle. You can also have a round handle that would come like that. And now that I look at it, it doesn't suit the pot. Okay, you can see that the handle is just not right. So moving on, I'm just going to flatten it. I'm going to keep the taper, but I'm going to flatten it because it's just going to look much better on the pot. And give it a nice shape. Cut the top off. And that's going to join there and there. Yeah? Okay. Let's let that firm up a little bit, now that I think about it. And let's rather attach one of these that we made earlier. Again, I made a few vessels that we can use for attaching. I like to attach on the seam. I don't know why. I think maybe just to have all the activity on that side makes more sense to me. So taking this one that looks like a reptile, I'll just line it up and see how it fits the pot. And if I'm happy, I'm going to take my slip and I'm going to mark it where I want it. And I just know that that's the right place because I've done this so many times. You can score here and then, you know, test it first if you're not sure. Right, and then I place the handle upside down almost, if you can see that. And then give it its C shape. Yeah? And then you want to compress that on there, and you can give it a traditional fishtail, especially in this case because it seems to match the design. And then here I would just compress that on nicely. Okay, so now it's attached. It's a 2-finger handle. I just have to think about these V's. Sometimes if you don't fill that in and if you don't attach that properly, your glaze gets stuck there and it makes like bubbles. So you could put glaze in there, you could paint glaze in there before you glaze the whole pot, and that would eliminate that problem. And you could just tack it on at the bottom and tack it on at the top.
Sort of blending.
Blending, yes. Okay, and then in the bottom here, because visually it looks a bit, I think it looks a little bit weak, you just take another little bit of clay and you roll a small sausage and just give it a little V shape. Just pinch it a little bit so that it fits neatly into that in there. And don't trap any air when you do this because it will crack. Okay, then we put that on and just use your finger to attach it. And here I find a dowel stick is quite whatever this is, a kebab stick is quite nice because you can like roll it on the inside and it makes a nice curve in that join there. And then make sure you look at it from this angle so you can see that it's out. Okay, you need to make sure that it's, so there we've got it now in position. Okay, and then you need to check that in doing that you didn't upset your join. It's important to have these now dry together. So wrap your cup up and leave it for a week so that it has time to dry. So that's that one.